Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the Fantasy Football Week 7 quarterback start or sits. I'm going to be going over my 2 starts and my 2 sits at the quarterback position as we enter Week 7 of the Fantasy Football season. Then after that, I'm going to be going over my 1 through 18 rankings at the quarterback position. I think 18 is a pretty good number to give you as a scale, just in case. Some of the teams in your league has stacked pretty good quarterbacks. There will be many options this coming week to suffice for those bye weeks, for those injuries, and anything that you need to worry about when it comes to the quarterback position. And before we begin, I want to thank all of you who have subscribed. We're almost at 3,000. So when we get there, this is a advanced thank you. I appreciate all the support, guys. And for those of you who have just newly subscribed, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Ask questions in the comments. Other people will get to you. When it comes to answering questions before Thursday night game, that is going to be difficult for me considering how much there is sitting there. So if I don't get to your question, I'm sorry in advance, but I will do my best in order to get to that. So let's get right into this, shall we? The quarterback rankings, or let's get to our start and sits first, shall we, Andrew? Hey, everybody, don't get too far ahead of yourself. Okay, let's talk about my starts of the week. We have here Jameis Winston, and we have Andy Dalton. Now, specifically, let's talk about Jameis Winston. Came back this past week and had himself a fantastic game. I mean, were we surprised? No. As I mentioned yesterday in the waiver wire video, he had a really good matchup, and the weapons that surround Jameis Winston, whether it's, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, who somehow miraculously is healed and is fully ready to go, Cameron Brate, Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin, Adam Humphries, Peyton Barber. I mean, guys, this offense is pretty stacked offensively, and defensively, they can't stop a soul, right? They just fired their defensive coordinator, and the way I see it, they're going to be in many shootouts this year, and going forward, I think playing against the Cleveland Browns this week at home, they're going to have a pretty, advantageous week when it comes to fantasy points. Jameis Winston is a good quarterback. Yes, he makes some stupid mistakes here and there. There's a reason why he was suspended for 3 games. But going forward this week, I don't think the Cleveland Browns defense is good enough to stop Jameis Winston, especially when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play at home. They get that much more of an advantage. So I think this week, for sure, if you picked him up last week and you played him and you're like, wow, thank you for the 5 points. Appreciate that. This week is not any different. I think going forward is going to be a weekly start, especially because this offense is just stacked. He's basically Matt Ryan, right? They both have bad defenses. They both have good offensive weapons. And they're going to have to score in order to be relevant. So I think Jameis Winston this week is for sure a start of the week. My next guy I wanted to mention, we have here Andy Dalton playing against the Kansas City Chiefs this week. I mean, Andy Dalton's been fantastic this year. Comparatively to last season and even seasons prior. There's been some shining lights here and there where Andy Dalton looks fantastic. But as of late, this season, Andy Dalton has been really consistent. Thus far has already thrown 14 touchdown passes in the matter of 6 weeks. Pretty much 2 touchdowns a game. Sometimes he has the upside of a third. This coming week, I think that is what we expect to see. I think Andy Dalton can throw that 3rd touchdown pass this week against a defense who really just can't stop anybody. That's a theme, right? Defenses this year have not been great in the NFL. Kickers this year have not been great in the NFL. But offenses, my goodness, every offense in their own, relative perspective can score the ball, and they're just too many points. I don't know, fantasy-wise, I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying there's just a lot more points going around this season. But anyway, this coming week, Andy Dalton, he's a good quarterback. Underneath this offensive coordinator, he's been fantastic as of late, especially this past week. I understand he struggled a little bit, but still, he didn't turn over the ball. He found the end zone twice with Tyler Boyd, both times, a wide receiver who has stepped up and is able to play across the field from A.J. Green, a guy who's going to get double covered. So at least he has that second weapon. Joe Mixon in the running game is going to be productive. C.J. Uzama, the tight end, they'll be fine. Even with, there's a possibility that John Ross gets involved, takes the top off the defense. Either way, I like Andy Dalton this week. The Red Rifle is going to have himself a pretty good week, and therefore he is one of my starts of the week. Let's talk about the two sits that I want to mention this week. Okay, now, if you play in a regular, 10-team league where you start 10 quarterbacks and there's no super flex of any sort or 2 quarterback, then you're not going to have to worry about these sits. And you can just disregard this, go down to the bottom, find timestamps. But if you'd like to listen to what I have to say about these two bums, my goodness. All right, Marcus Mariota, the guy that can do no wrong now. Honestly, he can do a lot wrong, and he's just been terrible. I mean, absolutely just awful. And the entire offense of the Titans has just been, I don't know where the Titans offense went. To be honest, since the entire, this entire season, what have they done offensively? Okay, they had one good game against the Eagles, but Marcus Mariota has either been hurt or he's been garbage. Period, right? Let's just read some stats. So in the first game of the season, right, I understand he got hurt, but prior to getting pulled out of that game, he had 1.6 points in fantasy, all right? And that consisted of 2 interceptions and 100 passing yards, all right? Then he was hurt the next week. The week after that, he had to come in because Blaine Gabbert got his head knocked off. He only had 9 fantasy points, in which majority of them came from running the ball, okay? Then the week after that, the only week he was relevant in, against the Eagles, in which they won in overtime, which he looked fantastic, completing 30 of his 43 passes, 344 passing yards, and 2 passing touchdowns. He looked great. He had some rushing yards on top of it. He looked fantastic. Then he follows that with a 4-point week and follows that with a 7-point week. He's nothing that you can trust as of right now. Playing against the LA Chargers, a team that's been on fire, I don't think that you can even trust Marcus Mariota going forward. He is a for sure drop. He's a guy that I just don't want to touch. In 2 quarterback leagues, he's a toxic waste hazmat suit kind of guy. You got to put on the gear in order to even touch him. I don't want anything to do with him or the Titans offense as of right now until they can show me differently. All right, the next guy I want to talk about, Brock Osweiler. Let's say, for example, okay, you're not familiar with Brock Osweiler's work. Perhaps you're thinking, wow, this guy's fantastic. He was able to beat the Bears defense. He lit him up. He had about 30 points, a 6-point per passing touchdown league. When it comes to fantasy points, he looks fantastic. Well, if you're of that opinion and you feel like you have the inclination to start Brock Osweiler this week, let me be your savior. Just okay, relax, okay? Don't get too far ahead of yourself, okay? Because we know for a fact that Brock Osweiler is not a good quarterback in the NFL. We know it, all right? There's nothing that has ever told us that he's a good quarterback in the NFL. There were a couple games in Denver where you could have, sat there and thought, okay, maybe Peyton Manning shouldn't come back, and maybe Brock Osweiler has just won the job. He should be fine going forward. But as of right now, I'm just going to read a couple stats, right? So while in Denver, he was pretty decent, right? The defense was able to do some stuff. The running game was fine. But then he went to Houston in 2016. He threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns. That's awful. You can't do that, right? After that one season in Houston, he was done. Literally, it took them 1 year, and they realized, my goodness, what have we done? And then now he's back. He went back to Denver, did some work there this last season. He wasn't terrible. But honestly, guys, do not buy into it. Okay, I understand it's a juicy matchup against the Lions secondary that you might think is bad, but by all means, we know for a fact that Brock Osweiler isn't that good. He's not a guy that you can. Of the 18 players I'm going to rank, he's not better than any of them this coming week. Just stay away from him. I wouldn't say hazmat suit because Mariota got sacked 11 times. That's not even an issue with his position. That's an offensive line issue. When you have 2 offensive linemen that are Pro Bowlers, top NFL 100 kind of guys, and they're giving up sacks, by all means, they should get those accolades stripped from them instantly. It's embarrassing how they could just 21 skunked. Goodness gracious. Anyway, Brock Osweiler, Marcus Mariota, those are my sits of the week. I guarantee you one of these guys pops off just because I'm talking shit about them. I'm calling it right now. Right here, right now. October 16th, 8:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm calling it. One of these two pops off because I talk shit about them. That's how this world works. Let's just walk away before I lose my mind. We're going to go right into the rankings. This is a shorter video, people. Deal with it. Let's talk about quarterbacks. We have number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Are we surprised? No, they play against the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Not too great of a defense. Ben Roethlisberger was able to, do what they barely won that game this past Sunday. But I think Patrick Mahomes and this deadly offense is going to be able to just pick them apart. The Cincinnati Bengals aren't going to be able to do much. Therefore, he is my number 1. I think he's been my number 1 ranked quarterback like 4 times already. And for good reason. He's fantastic. And going forward, he should be great. So that's why he's my number 1. Number 2, we have Tom Brady. I understand they're playing a tough defense. But this tough defense got exposed. And Tom Brady, he's looking like, when he's scoring 40 points, every week, the last 2 weeks, they've been pretty high-powered as of late. They found themselves a running game. They found themselves being able to find Edelman, James White out of the backfield, Gronkowski, Josh Gordon, Dorsett, Hogan. They have so many weapons, right? It's pick your poison to a point. Who are you going to game plan against? Because as soon as you game plan against one guy, that's fine. We have 12 other guys that we can use and can be relevant. That is why Tom Brady is my number 2. I understand it's a tough matchup, but I don't think it's going to be that difficult for the Patriots to be able to score on the Bears this coming week. My number 3 this week, we have Matt Ryan playing against the Giants defense on Monday Night Football. Again, as I mentioned before, and I mentioned a bunch, Atlanta Falcons defense is too banged up to stop anybody. This game is going to be a shootout because we already know that the Falcons get after it. They try to score as many points as they possibly can in order to give their team the best chance. They're going to be missing Calvin Ridley this week, but Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Austin Hooper has been stepping up. Tevin Coleman, maybe Jeff Hardy a little bit. They should be fine going forward. Is it Jeff Hardy? You know what? It might not be Jeff Hardy. Let's look this up actually real quick. Yeah, it is Jeff Hardy, right? Yeah. Justin Hardy. Goodness gracious. Jeff Hardy's a WWE guy. Hey. Okay, anyway. That's my number 3. I just think just off of what the Eagles were able to do to this Giants defense last week, they were able to pick them apart really easily. I think Matt Ryan may even have a better offense than the Eagles do as of right now. So they're going to be able to pick them apart, have a pretty good fantasy week. That's why he's my number 3. Number 4, Kirk Cousins playing against the Jets defense. Kirk Cousins hasn't been great as of late. He's been decent, 20 points. But we can't live with that, right? We need Kirk Cousins to have those 40-point, 30-point weeks where he's completely just throwing 4 touchdowns. And I think this week can be that. I think against the Jets defense, who, Andrew Luck was able to torment last week, just passing the ball, scoring in bunches. I understand the Jets won the game, but that's just that's a defensive issue. When you throw a pick 6 in the first play of the game because Marlon Mack can't catch a ball, that doesn't really help you. But as of right now, Kirk Cousins, this Minnesota Vikings team, they got to make the playoffs. So they got to keep winning games. And the way to win games, especially right now, is outscore your opponent because defenses can't do anything. I think this week they have an advantage on both sides of the ball. And Kirk Cousins with Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, hopefully Dalvin Cook coming back. He's my number 4 this week. Number 5 we have here, Andrew Luck. Been absolutely just one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Just as consistent as Patrick Mahomes has been on a weekly basis. A guy who just, even without his top weapons, finds Eric Ebron every single week and makes him as relevant as possible. He's making the receivers around him better. Chester Rogers, Eric Ebron, as I mentioned, Nyheim Hines in the passing game. Hopefully, as of right now, T.Y. Hilton has the questionable tag, but he's hopefully going to play, even though that hamstring injury is bugging him a little bit. Chester Rogers has been good. So, going forward, I think it's got to be Andrew Luck, number 5. I don't care that they're playing against, goodness gracious. How did I forget who they're playing? Oh, they play against the Bills. Excuse me. I don't even have to look it up anymore. It escaped me for that quick second, but they play against the Bills defense. The Bills defense, I understand, they can be tough, but Andrew Luck is a good enough quarterback. He'll be able to figure it out. He's not Deshaun Watson who's going to struggle. Deshaun Watson struggles because he's a bum, not because the Bills defense is that much better. I think Andrew Luck this week, by all means, is going to be a pretty good fantasy quarterback. Even if he throws picks, he doesn't really care. He comes back out and he keeps throwing it. Against Nathan Peterman this week, that Bills offense is already going to struggle. So it's going to give Andrew Luck short field position and that much more of an opportunity to score. That's why he's my number 5. Number 6, my first start of the week, we have Andy Dalton playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. As I mentioned before, he has a really good opportunity for a 3+ touchdown game because this defense isn't great and his offense has been working and making progress every single week. They continue to get better and better. By all means, they're probably not going to win this game because they're going to get 45 points dropped on them. But Andy Dalton has an opportunity. 28 points, this offense, that's a pretty good idea. Even if it's garbage time, I still think Andy Dalton's going to be able to produce and find himself some fantasy value. That's why he's my number 6 this week. Number 7, we have Jameis Winston, my second start of the week, playing against the Browns. Guys, I am all in on Jameis Winston. I'm in on the hype train. If Ryan Fitzpatrick was able to do what he did, and now we put in the younger, talented arm, why not? Why not continue to start him? That is what I'm preaching. We start him every single week going forward until he plays the Saints and throws 4 picks in one of these weeks. I'm calling it. It's going to happen. But as of right now, playing against the Browns at home, I love the matchup. I like Jameis Winston going into this. And I think this offense is way too talented to be stopped. Therefore, he's going to score a lot of fantasy points. He's my number 7. Number 8, we have Cam Newton. Okay, here's the thing. Cam Newton right now, and then we're followed with Carson Wentz. These two guys, they're going to be good, but they play each other this week. That's why I kind of have them near each other in the rankings. They're both got good defenses, right? Carolina Panthers defense and the Eagles defense, they can both get after you, right? They're going to give each other problems, but overall, I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch. Fantasy-wise, Cam Newton, he is a for sure start every week. And Carson Wentz, now that I've fully seen what Carson Wentz is capable of, I understand they played against a very bad team last Thursday. But when you're able to produce, I don't care. You at least show that you're capable of doing something, right? Unlike Mariota, where you have one good week and then you're not able to do anything going forward. Either way, Carson Wentz this coming week, Cam Newton this coming week, both of them are for sure starts. If you see anybody above them, 7 through 1, and you own them, I prefer those guys over Cam and Wentz this coming week. Otherwise, these two are really good at my number 8 and 9 spot for week 7 of the fantasy season. My next guy I want to talk about, Matthew Stafford coming off the bye week. Let's say, for example, you were playing in a league and someone has dropped Matthew Stafford because of the bye week last week. By all means, pick him up. He plays against the Miami Dolphins this coming week. I think he could have a really good matchup. If Mitchell Trubisky is able to score 28 points on the Miami defense, why not Matthew Stafford with the talent that he has with Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, who's probably fully healthy now, Kenny Golladay, Kieran Johnson. I understand that the defense of the Detroit Lions isn't fantastic. They're not, foolproof, but as of right now, he's my number 10 quarterback because he's Matthew Stafford. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They're going to have a good game. Fantasy-wise, I expect him to have at least 2 touchdowns, maybe more, for this coming week. Therefore, he's my number 10. Number 11, we have Drew Brees playing against the Baltimore Ravens. This is an interesting stat that I saw the other day, or I read. Drew Brees has beaten every single team in the NFL except for the Baltimore Ravens. This is the last team he needs to beat to basically close out that entire gauntlet. He keeps breaking records. He wants to join the club of the quarterback that's beaten every other franchise, or beaten every single franchise, I think he's beaten the Saints while he was on the Chargers. That's why he'll have beaten every single team ever. But as of right now, I think, he'll probably win this game, but they're going to use Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram in the running game more and more as the weeks progress. I'm telling you, the two-headed monster thing is going to happen as we continue. He's broken his records. Now they're going to try to get to the point where they just let these guys take over and run the ball down everyone's throats. That's why he's a little bit lower. I think this Ravens defense is something. I understand that they beat up on a childish offense when it comes to the Titans, but Drew Brees is good enough to score enough points to be a top 12 quarterback and should be starting in your league, but he's a guy that I prefer everybody else's matchups above him. Therefore, that is why he's dropped this low. Number 12, Jared Goff, a guy that I've mentioned in the past as you have to start him until otherwise, noted. This is the note, people. Jared Goff, as of late, hasn't been great at all. He's been lacking in the fantasy point department because Todd Gurley just keeps scoring fantasy points. He keeps scoring touchdowns. With Cooper Kupp out this week, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find fantasy value for Jared Goff. I think he's a guy that, honestly, I'd be a little worried about. I understand that they play against a very favorable matchup. They play in California against the 49ers. They don't have to travel anywhere. The 49ers defense isn't amazing. They're going to have fun. They're going to be able to score some points. But is Jared Goff going to have that 3-touchdown game with Todd Gurley being so successful and with Cooper Kupp being out? I don't think so. That's why he's my number 12. Number 13, we have Phillip Rivers, another guy that the running back in his offense is completely torching him. Melvin Gordon this past week on 3 toss plays. They literally ran 3 toss plays for 3 touchdowns down in the red zone. And those 3 touchdowns could have, easily been, at least 2 of them, maybe 1 of them, a passing touchdown. But instead, Phillip Rivers was left with only 2 passing touchdowns. If he had scored 1 more, I would have went undefeated this week in all my leagues. But that wasn't the case. So therefore, I took an L in one of my leagues. And I'm a little salty. But either way, he plays against Tennessee Titans this week. It's in Los Angeles. I think Melvin Gordon's going to continue to do what he does. Phillip Rivers catching 2 touchdowns. That's where I see him at. That's why I have him at 13. I don't see him having too much of an upside past that because Melvin Gordon is going to score these fantasy points on the goal line and in the red zone. So expect Phillip Rivers not to be as amazing as the guys above him. All right. Number 14, Mitchell Trubisky. Had to mention him. Many of you will be picking him up and probably starting him this week because of the bye weeks to Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, please not Derek Carr, and Russell Wilson. So as of right now, against the Patriots defense, I think he's got a really good matchup. I just want to reserve the entire idea of I don't want to rank him too high, guys, because what if I rank him above Matthew Stafford, yeah? And he goes in and is an absolute bum, right? Then you're thinking, wow, Andrew, he screwed me. So that's why I'm going to leave him at 14. Because we haven't seen a bigger sample size of what he's capable of. We've seen 2 great games back to back, sure, okay? But I don't know how much I can trust Mitchell Trubisky. I know he's a good enough quarterback to start this coming week. But I'm just not willing to put him over these veteran quarterbacks that have shown me more than he has thus far. So as of right now, I will, reserve the right to have him at the number 14 spot. A guy that I think can be a very good play this week. I would start him if I, had a quarterback on bye week. Plain and simple. But would I start him over the guys above? Yes, over Phillip Rivers. Maybe Goff, but we'll see, okay? That's why he's at 14. He's very, very close to that almost QB1 range, top 12 kind of guy. All right, number 15, Baker Mayfield. Baker, listen to me, okay? I know you're watching this. It's fantastic. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, Baker Mayfield. You're the best. As of right now, you play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. If you need me to, I'll get you on Skype. We'll watch film together. We'll break down the defense. I'll tell you exactly what to do. You throw the ball less towards Antonio Callaway. I understand. You threw the ball towards him 10 times this past week, okay? He caught 2 balls. Understand that. You cannot trust Antonio Callaway. Throw the ball towards Jarvis Landry, please. Now, let's say, for example, you don't want to throw it to Jarvis Landry, okay? This defense is going to do you favors. The Tampa Bay defense can't really stop anybody. So you can throw the ball to Javen Njoku. You can throw the ball to Duke Johnson. Maybe even Carlos Hyde out of the backfield. But please, for the love of God, score some points this week, okay? Jarvis Landry, just maybe 1 touchdown. Maybe, 12 targets and maybe 6 receptions. Jarvis can get 50% catch rate. That's decent, right? But please, Baker, I know you're watching. Figure it out, baby. Come on. He's my number 15 this week. I think with the great matchup it's only inevitable that he has a breakout game. I understand he's a rookie. He's struggling here and there. But he's got so good. I mean, this matchup is perfect. Any other quarterback against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week would be in the top 10 right now. Okay? But as of right now, Baker, you're at 15 because I don't trust you fully, but I know for a fact you're capable of producing. So that's why we'll have you at 15. Number 16 this week, Joe Flacco playing against the New Orleans Saints, a team who's given up a lot of points to the quarterback position and given up a lot of points throughout the season to opposing offenses. I think Joe Flacco can be decent this week. He is a streaming quarterback, a guy that if you're struggling and the waiver wires are dry, you can't go get guys like Dalton or Winston off the waivers or Trubisky. He is the next best option. I think comparatively to Baker Mayfield, Baker has the better matchup, but I trust Joe Flacco more. I think Joe Flacco, having won a Super Bowl at least, right? He's veteran. With John Brown, with Michael Crabtree getting more and more attempts and production thus far, the running game finding itself, coming off of a huge win. I think the Baltimore Ravens at home this week could, be pretty good fantasy-wise. Therefore, I have Joe Flacco at number 16. Number 17, we have Deshaun Watson. For those of you who own Deshaun Watson, be very careful. This is a warning. This is a Jared Goff warning, but this is for Deshaun Watson. They play against the Jacksonville defense, who by all means got annihilated this past week by the Cowboys offense. They got 40 points dropped on them, and I'm sure they're not happy about it. I'm sure the coaching staff's not happy about it, and I'm sure they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that this next game, a division game, which is really going to count, all right, they're going to make sure that Deshaun Watson has a hell of a time trying to score the ball. Deshaun Watson has the capabilities, though. What good old Dak Prescott was able to do this past Sunday to exploit the Jacksonville defense was run the ball through Ezekiel Elliott and use his legs to make plays. Deshaun Watson's capable of making plays with legs. He's not, Tom Brady with his giraffe legs trying to get away from the defensive line. Man, that play where Tom Brady evaded the sack because the guy didn't want to get a penalty and dove into the end zone, goodness. In slow motion is the funniest looking play. But either way, as of right now, Deshaun Watson, I just be a little bit careful this week, guys. I understand that a lot of you are Deshaun Watson guys. He's going to be great, blah, blah. Just be careful, man. This defense is nothing to F around with. Yes, they got clapped this last week, but it's nothing that's going to consistently happen on a week-to-week basis. All right, the last quarterback I want to mention before we get out of here, Eli Manning, okay? All right, don't shoot me. I'm okay, all right? Listen, they play against the Falcons defense, a defense that has been awful, people. Listen to me. Eli Manning, Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, hopefully Evan Ingram. They're going to be fine this week. They're going to have value. Monday Night Football. It's going to be a good game. I think Eli Manning at least gets 2 touchdown passes. Now, if he gets vultured, all right, by Saquon Barkley, it's very capable of doing that. You're going to have problems. But as of right now, he can score. I mean, listen, the Falcons are probably going to have to score 30 points to win this game, right? So therefore, I give Eli Manning a chance of hopefully scoring 3 to 4 touchdowns. Not throwing, but at least the offense of the Giants are going to score 3 to 4 touchdowns, right? So all of that considered, I think Eli Manning going to have a decent week. If he ends up not moving the ball and they don't score, by all means, he's getting replaced by the week after, okay? So as of right now, Eli Manning, my number 18 for this week. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions, go down in the comment section. Somebody will help you out, or I will get to that before Sunday. This Thursday night's game, what do we have? The Cardinals versus the Denver Broncos. Hopefully my running back video, my wide receiver video tomorrow will answer those questions. Obviously, you don't see any Denver or Cardinals quarterbacks on this list. Therefore, don't ask a question about them because I don't think they're going to have much value this week. I mean, they could potentially. A couple big plays here and there, but I think the wide receivers and the running backs of those teams are going to have the best opportunity for this coming week. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later. And tomorrow we're going to have tight ends and wide receivers, so be ready for that. See you guys.